So easy here. Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, lovely people, depending on where you're watching us from in this beautiful world of ours. I have got Sylvia Wolfer with me today, and I'm really, really excited about that because Sylvia and I feel like we've talked quite a bit in the last few months, and we've caught up behind the scenes quite a little bit. And we've also got something new in store that we're going to share in a minute. But I just thought it would be great to have you back on Unsilenced Grief and get our audience a little bit of an update, what's been happening in your life. I'm going to throw a topic at you that we didn't pre-discuss, but there is also a little bit, I feel naughty doing that because it's something that I should have asked you before I'm doing this. But a topic that has come up a lot lately is the fear of going into a relationship when you have experienced deepest loss. And I think that that maybe is something that I know that you can talk about that. And before we go there, let's just do a bit of a reintroduction. For those of you who don't know Sylvia, can you give us a bit of an update, Sylvia? Who are you? What brings you here? And how are you today? Welcome.
Hi, Mary. Thank you so much for having me again on Silence Grief. It's always a pleasure talking to you. And as you said, we have catched up a little bit in the background. Just for a quick background on my story, I have experienced loss quite a bit in my life. From a very young age, I lost my dad at the age of 7, suddenly of a heart attack. 10 years later, my brother in an accident, also suddenly. And then fast forward to just before lockdown, my older brother also died in an accident very suddenly. And that was very traumatic to have again such a sudden death and such a catastrophic loss in the family.
Mm,
And this is really when I started to dive into the literature of grief because I just couldn't believe it happened again to the same family. And it
mm,
made me realize how much I had been carrying grief, unattended grief, and how much grief had
mm,
been taken away from me all these years, decades, without even realizing it. The realization was that I had missed out on precious time with my brother because of this unattended
mm,
grief. So this is really a moment where I thought, this is enough. Enough is enough. Grief is
mm.
just like a tyrant in my life. It's like I'm at the mercy of grief. I don't want this anymore. And I decided to regain some agency. That was really the beginning of my work with grief
Yeah.
for myself and then with others as well. And a few
At
years,
what age was that, if you don't mind me
yeah,
asking, when
yeah.
you realized that enough is enough? I need to gain some agency back here.
Sorry, what was the beginning of the
At what
question?
age was that? What age were you when you decided enough is enough? I'm gonna
Yeah, I
take my
was
life back.
40. I was 40. So
Wow.
my father died when I was 7, my younger brother when I was 17, and my older
Hmm.
brother when I was 40. So I had spent
Hmm.
quite a big chunk of my life really
Yeah.
at the mercy of grief. But the thing is, that I hadn't realized the state I was in. So I was very
Mm.
much, easily triggered. And whenever a wave of grief would hit me, it would completely disconnect me from the present moment. I would either
Yeah.
completely go away in my thoughts or even have to leave the
Mm.
table, hide away for a
Hmm.
moment, cry, come back. And I
Yeah.
just wasn't present. And this is really my big regret that I've missed out on such a precious moment. I could have been more mindfully present with my older brother. And
Mm.
then I was angry when my brother died. I was like, this is enough now. There must be a
Mm.
way to carry grief forward because I accept that it is in my life. It will always be part of it. But I do
Mm.
want to, I want to also live the life that is here, and I want to be present with the people that
Mm.
are still here around me. So yeah,
Yeah.
40.
Yeah. That's incredible because I feel like, this is something that I've been saying for decades, even way before I delved into the topic of grief so intensely. It is you cannot change something that you're not aware of. There's always that you need to
Yes.
recognize it first. You
Yeah.
need to notice that. It's like,
Mm.
that moment of like, I've lost so much. I lost my dad when I was 20, and a lot of that was unattended grief because I had no tools back then. I didn't
Mm.
know how to deal with it. And my thing was as well, I was angry at everything that I had lost. So at the same time, I didn't realize that I was continuously losing when in anger, I was not present to life and to the presence and the gifts that life actually has for you. It was the classic staring at the closed door moment and not seeing all the open doors around me. And when Rob passed away, I was 45, my husband, and that was so different because I had learned so much. I had done so much work, inner work, childhood work, like all that stuff that comes up. And I feel that grief has got a really mean capacity to highlight all the unhealed wounds from your childhood that might not even have anything to do with the grief, but everything just comes up that has been unattended, has been not noticed or not taken care of. And there was a point in my life where I thought, you know what, let's just bring it. Like literally, not like as in, just bring it as in fighting stance or anything. But it's like, yeah, just bring it. I'm ready for it. I just want to do this. I want to work through this. I want to have uh, the rest of my life, however long that is. There might be 50 years, there might be less, there might be more. Who knows? I just want to have that in a way that I can be happy with myself. I can be proud of myself. And in my case, also, I want to pass it on to my children. I want them to find a way to deal with it in a healthy and happy way rather than constantly looking at I didn't like the poor me. There's a lot of stigma around that as well. The uh, poor me, I'm the girl that lost my dad. I'm the girl that lost, or the woman that lost my husband, whatever. There are so many expectations, labels from society that actually make it a lot harder to deal with grief or to heal because we don't have the right tools. And this is what you and I are so passionate about. This is why we're sitting here having this conversation. So, what changed for you when you were 40? What did you do differently? Where did you and how did you gain your agency?
Well, just after my brother died, it was lockdown, and
Mm,
I was living alone in England by then. So I was
mm,
completely alone in a country
yeah.
where no one had really known my brother. He was living in Germany. We're French originally. My
Mm,
mom was in Bolivia. My younger brother was in France. So we were completely dispatched. And it's only now in hindsight that I realized that, woof, this was tough because the whole world was crumbling. We had no
mm,
idea what was going to happen. The loneliness was palpable. And then my
mm,
brother had just died, and I was really, I was not in a good state. And it was just a matter of survival, to be like, okay, something has to change now. So that's when I started to dive into the science. And this really
mm,
gave me some hold because I I love data because it feels stable. So when the whole world
mm.
seems to collapse,
I love
like
that.
yeah, looking at the numbers, the graphs, the statistics, the figures, it just brought me some kind of stability. And the two major things that diving in the science has helped me with is that one, suddenly my experience made sense because I
Mm,
realized that, oh, hang on, this is the reason why I react like this. This is why I feel like this. It's explicable. It's not faulty. Then I'm not bonkers. I'm not mad. And the other thing that was really heartwarming is because of the amount of the studies, it was just a nice reconnection to humanity as a whole. That reminder that, well, this is probably the most universal experience of life, losing a
mm.
loved one. And that was also kind of comforting, to just feel part of that humanity that is grieving mostly in silence. Yeah.
Yeah, and all of a sudden, loss became such a very prominent topic in the entire world. Like all of a sudden, people were dealing with it left, right, center, and it just people kept dying around us, and of course, it
Mhm.
adds to the fear, and it adds to the fact that we don't know how to actually handle grief, and that adds to the fact that we were all in isolation and lockdown, and it was so much harder to even receive support, let alone have your loved ones around you to support you and hug you. Like
Yeah.
it was yeah, layer upon layer that really highlighted how horribly well how horribly we are equipped with dealing with grief. That there is really not a lot that I would happily recommend to someone. I just was really quite appalled with how little work there was available that felt really supportive. And I love that you delved into science because that is stable. These are facts, there's data, and that's so much more reliable. All the emotional burden or the emotional layers that come with it, um, there is a lot of negativity around grief, I must say. not a lot of hope. People certainly don't talk much about happiness and joy and choices in the space of grief. There's always that it will last forever, it will be with you forever. It will. There's always that language that makes it almost a death sentence. You know, it's
Yeah,
like a lifelong
terrifying.
sentence basically.
Mm.
And I'm like, yes, I know you and I word that slightly differently, but I think we come from a very similar background. I, for example, always use that metaphor of grief is like a visitor for me, and she doesn't live here permanently, and I wouldn't want her to, you know. And yes, she does come and visit, and sometimes around those anniversaries, she comes to visit more often, or you know, like sometimes totally unexpected. In the car, I'm driving down, and all of a sudden, she's sitting right next to me, and I'm like, "What are you doing here?" Oh, it's a song. Okay. You know, and that's okay. I've accepted that it can happen, but because I accepted it, also gave me a bit of a different approach on how I deal with her when she comes and shows up unannounced. I've learned to say, not now. I just either I don't have the capacity or I simply don't want to deal with you right now. And that it's okay to say, you know what, can we talk about this tonight? I just don't want to sit with you right now. It literally, that's how I handle it. I literally see her as a person showing up unannounced. And when I have time and it's suitable and it's okay, sure, come on in, you know, let's sit with it. Let's cry it out. Let's laugh it out, whatever happens. You know, there's so many different ways. Um, I do want to, if that's okay with you, Sylvia, and please, even though we're live, it's absolutely okay to say no. I do want to talk about this topic of new relationships when you are in grief, when you have experienced a lot of loss, because a lot of my clients, one in particular, and obviously I want to be very, very careful and mindful of identity here and confidentiality. But when you have experienced loss in multiple layers, which we both know, um, it does really become tricky and confronting, the thought of allowing somebody into our life and really completely opening our hearts to them and say, and that can go for both, for an intimate relationship as well as a friendship, because there is this underlying fear of, well, what if I lose you again, you know, or I lose again, I lose you as well. And I noticed in myself that there was an additional protection layer that I'm not super happy about. I don't like it. I wish I could just take it off and be as, you know, completely like you were as a child, you know, just trusting and trusting in the world that it's going to be fine. It's fun and it's beautiful and there's love or connection or relationship or friendship. And then all of a sudden there's this fear and I pull back a little bit. And I'm still here and I'm still having a friendship. I'm still, you know, having connections and making connections. But there's also that, yeah. Do you want to say a little bit about that? How was that for you?
Yeah,
How do you deal with
yeah.
that?
I think it's a great topic because I think anyone who's lost a loved one, maybe even particularly brutally, can relate to that underlying fear that
Mm,
is completely legitimate. I mean, you know, the
mm,
body remembers and is trying to protect us, to be like,
mm,
don't get in that situation again. That was so
yeah.
painful. We're going to try to stay
Mm,
away from it. And I've certainly been there. For friendships and romantic relationships, where, you know,
mm,
after my brother, I thought, no, I have wonderful people in my life, amazing, you know, friends and family members. That's enough. I have
mm,
enough. I don't want anyone else to come on top of that.
yeah.
And it was certainly protective. And I meditate a lot, so I know that meditation has helped me a lot. So
Mm,
I've really tried to tame these fears, and I work a lot, you know, with emotional literacy and trying to identify the emotions that come at me, see whether they're useful or not. I take them as information, you know, and so that
mm,
fear. And then I met someone, and
mm,
obviously that fear would come up like constantly, and it was a push pull. I want you, but no, go away. I don't want you. It was absolutely horrible for him. But
mm,
also for me, it was also hard for me. And so to work with these fears and just understand, okay, here they are again. They're completely legit. They're here to protect me, but they're not
mm,
valid. They're not valid. I don't know what's going to happen. And yes, indeed, maybe if I go into this relationship, he might also die suddenly. There is a risk. Like no one
mm,
can tell me the opposite, you know. This is a
yeah.
reality I have to accept. But then I found that developing emotional literacy and just understanding them, accepting them, taking them as
Mm,
information, but not giving them too much credit,
mm,
And just also there was really a point in time where I decided that, I was going to go all in, whatever
Mm-hmm.
relationship, whatever friendship,
Mm,
family, whatever. I thought, no, fear has held me back too much. I'm gonna
mm,
go all in. I don't want to be tiptoeing. I don't want to be walking on eggshells. If I love, and I do it fully.
mm.
And that's been quite liberating. And just on that
Yeah.
topic of,
Mm-hmm.
relationship and fears, this is really meeting someone is really what has highlighted for me the underlying influence of anniversaries, because
Mm.
every time I would push him away, every single time, it was an anniversary, a birthday, and I was in denial. I was like, it has nothing to do. I can think clearly. Of course, I know it's that day of the year, but
Mm-hmm.
doesn't yeah. So
Yeah.
I have now a protocol where I don't make any major decisions around these dates. I don't trust myself.
I love that.
Mm,
I love this so much, and thank you for talking so openly about this because I feel this is a topic that a lot of women in particular that I work with really need to hear. And I think I already have the feeling there will be a lot of clips shared from this because how you put this is so beautiful. I often say I work with a widow at the moment and it's very, very fresh. Her husband only died a couple of months ago. And I said to her, do not make any major decisions in the first 6 months, just don't. And I will add that to my repertoire. I really like that. Don't make any major decisions around the anniversaries because it is such a beautiful advice. I absolutely love how you put that and how you said that. And also, two things that really stood out for me that I want to highlight what you just said is the one that it is legitimate to have that fear, and it is there to protect you. I love this so much that you said that it is there to protect you. Absolutely. Although it's a fear, it's actually coming from a space of love. It wants to protect you. And I love this because I often talk about there is only the two emotions, there's fear and there's love. We can act from the space of love or we can act from the space of fear. And this mechanism is like, hey, I'm acting out of space of love. I want to protect you. So that's why I'm giving it a fear of like, oh God, it's actually it's such a dance, right?
mm,
When you look at it, the push pull that you described,
mm.
I know that all too well, the wanting to be there, but also then pulling back and going through that. But yeah, I love, and I'm going to finish it off with that. The last thing I want to highlight what you said is that it isn't valid because we don't know. We don't know because after all, it could be me who passes this time. Who knows? Like not that I have any incline around that. And I always said I feel like I'm going to live a very, very long life, but who knows? We have
Who
no
knows?
guarantee for anything. And here am I always stuck in this what if when I'm like, yeah, but what if not? Or what if I
Yeah,
don't even look at this up. And it comes back to, well, do I even want to look at that? Or do I want to look at what's the potential that I have here?
exactly.
I could have 20, 30 incredible years with this person, friendship, relationship, whatever it may be. And yet here am I sitting and allowing myself to be trapped by fear. I don't want that. I've
Mm,
spent way too much time in my life in fear, and I don't want that anymore. I love how you described how at 40 you had this moment, enough is enough. I don't want to do this anymore. So what do you want instead? And
mm.
for me, that was always the thing that pulled me forward. I don't know if I shared this with you, Sylvia, or not. I started a new journaling exercise a few weeks ago, and every single night I sit down and I used to have that one question every night that I've been doing for years. What was the best thing that happened to me today? I always wrapped up my day with that one gratitude question. And now I added a second one, and that is, what's the best thing that could happen for me tomorrow? Have I
Oh,
already
I
shared
love
that with
this.
you?
Yeah, no,
Yeah, so
I
I
didn't know. I
added
love
it.
this. Yeah.
Yeah, I added it a few weeks ago and it really has changed my thinking even more so. And I feel I'm already quite a positive thinker, but it really has helped me through a tough time that I've gone through a couple of months ago where I was down spiraling and I was watching myself thinking, Marie, you know better than this. What are you doing? Why are you allowing
Mm,
this? And that question popped up because I thought I'm only one fill in the blanks away from fill in the blanks, and there's always like it works for everyone in any situation. You only ever one fill in the blanks away from fill in the blanks, whatever it is that works for you. And I started using that every single night before
I love
I
that.
switch off the light. That's the last thing I ask myself. And it puts me to bed with a positive thought in my head
Exactly.
and with a smile on
Yes.
my face. And I love that.
Yes, yes, and
Yeah.
you also train your brain to scan for the
Mm.
positive. You know,
Yeah.
waking up the next morning and be like,
Yeah.
okay, she's gonna ask me tonight, so I better
Yeah.
make a note of all the good things. This is how our brains work, which is
It's
amazing.
so
And
funny. I'm always
yeah,
like, what's going to happen? What can I tick off tonight?
no, but that's how it works. Like there's a
Mm.
neuroscientist who I love his work. His name is James Doty. He wrote a wonderful book
Mhm.
called Into the Magic Shop and
Yeah, I
Mind
love him.
Magic.
I
Yeah,
love him. And
yeah,
that
he's just
book, oh my
incredible.
God,
Yes.
it is
And
really
he talks,
magical.
yeah, it is. Oh my God, it
Oh,
is. And he talks about the brain like a bloodhound. Said you
mm,
train the brain, and whatever you feed it with, it's gonna scan and look for it and
yeah,
hunt and really go after it. So
yeah.
it's mechanical. It's fantastic how we can
Mm,
use our brains. I just wanted to say something about how you said that we often hear negative stuff around grief, and I love how you have that
mm,
analogy with grief being a guest who has overstayed her
mm.
welcome, and there was a
Yeah,
time where you thought joy needs to come back in.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
I know you're going to come and visit every now and then, but I want joy to move
Mm,
back in and stay
yeah.
with us now. And
Mm,
I think messages like this are massively important because I feel like it is because I hadn't heard these examples enough after my dad and my brother died that I thought this is what life is going to be now. This is what
mm,
grief does. It
yeah.
just, it just jumps at you randomly. You're just sad
Mm,
half of the time. I thought this was
mm,
normal. I had
yeah.
capitulated. And so to have
Mm,
like more conversations now around the fact that no, no, it doesn't have
mm,
to ruin your life. There is space for happiness, for joy, for love, for hope, for new
mm,
projects, for new chapters. It is so essential that we
mm.
talk about these things.
And speaking about new projects, do you want to share a little bit about what we are going to do?
Yes,
Or what we've
yes.
already started, actually?
Yes, we have already started and we have another one next week. So we are
Mm,
going to have a LinkedIn Live on the topic of liminality in grief, which is a
mm,
really interesting word that I didn't know, but the
yeah.
concept is just very relatable for most people. It is that space between the before and after. So that
Mm,
space where we have accepted that something major, drastic has changed in our life, but we don't quite know what the next chapter is going to look like. And it's like
mm,
floating in an in-between. And in that time, in that period, people around us might feel like, oh, okay, they're doing better. They seem to cope now. They seem to get back into their routine. But
mm,
actually, we are completely lost. So we'll be
mm,
talking about this liminality next week
yeah.
on LinkedIn.
Hmm.
Might you want to add something about this?
Sorry, do I want
Did
to
you,
add? I
yes, do
thought
you
I
want to
thought
add
you
something?
said I'm going to add something to this, and I was waiting. I thought you. I love that we started this. So we started our series. It's called Grief and You on LinkedIn about a month ago. We had our first episode, and we postponed the second one because I had visitors, you had visitors, and we're like, oh, we need to be prepared for that. We didn't just want to rock up and do it, and so yeah, we moved it to the 1st of September. And I'm more than happy to share the link, the invite in the show notes below. So if you are watching this on YouTube, watching this live, you can come back and click on that and click on the event and join us live if you want to, or just watch it back later. I just love the space that we've created because I really feel um, LinkedIn has changed so much over the last decade. I've really watched it change from how I perceived it, rather dry, very businessy, and like only um, certain business jargon was found on LinkedIn, and now you find the humans behind the business on LinkedIn. I really feel there was a real shift to that. So at the beginning, I thought, oh, what has grief got to do with LinkedIn and should I? But then I thought, well, this is my business now. This is what I do. I do help people through that journey. I accompany them on the path and I offer programs and retreats, and I want to share that on LinkedIn as well because where are the people who are grieving? They're everywhere and they're on
Absolutely.
LinkedIn too.
Yeah.
And I absolutely admire the work that you do on LinkedIn. You're very active on LinkedIn. And when you wrote
Thank
about
you.
liminality, I thought, wow, this is incredible. And that's when I asked you, should we put that into our Grief and You series? And you were like, yep, let's do it. It is such an incredible topic. And to be honest, I knew very well about that state, obviously, because I've been there. I didn't know the word for it. So you were actually the one who's given me the word for it. I went on Google and went like, what does, that's exactly what I've gone through.
That's it.
And also
Everyone can
just
relate.
reading through your article. That was so, so well written, by the way. I really loved what
Thank
you
you.
wrote about it. And I thought I can so find myself in that. And that's what I love about the work that you and I do, because we make grief and the journey through it really relatable. We don't promise you anything that, textbook, whatever. We've lived through it, we've done it ourselves. And I feel there's such a difference in the work when you work with somebody who's got lived experience and actually
Mm,
knows what they're guiding you through. We all know that grief is very, very individual. It's as unique as the person experiencing it. It's just like your fingerprint, I always say. But there is a common element
mm,
of needing support, not knowing how to actually ask for it, and also not
mm.
knowing how to allow it in when somebody offers it. Um, let's talk about that for a second, because we've got a few minutes left. And I think it's a very, very important one, the support. I went through a phase because I was dealing with grief so differently to what people expected me to. Most people didn't know how to support me. And when people did offer support and said, can I do this? Can I do that? Can I come? I said no all the time at the beginning because I didn't know how to allow it in, let alone the not
That's
knowing how to
interesting.
ask for it. But when people came, I didn't know how to allow it in. And here's in very layman terms what was going through my head. If I allow you to do that, and then next week I need you again to do that, and you don't rock up, then I'm going to experience another tiny loss of I'm alone
Mm,
again in this. And so I'd rather
mm.
carry it on my own. That's
Yeah.
how I felt.
Yeah.
I didn't have words for it at the beginning. I
Mm,
was just acting on instinct. But when I sat with it and when I started, gaining agency and working through my own grief, I realized, oh my God, that's a pattern I have developed. I am worried that if I allow grief in, then next week I need it again, that person is not going to be able to help me for whatever reason. And maybe worst of all, because they need it in their own family and will highlight that I'm now, champion this family on my own. So there was this I was not ready to have grief or the absence of Rob rubbed in my face all the time. So it was easier for me to just hold it all together on my own. That is not very sustainable, is it? So I had to learn. I can laugh about it now, but it was definitely not funny at the time. It was
mm.
really there was a real loneliness around that people didn't see or couldn't see from the outside because I had it all together out here, but
Yeah.
internally I was. Yeah, it was that liminality. It was exactly that, the not even knowing who I am, where I'm going, what I'm doing,
Yeah.
if I can do it all on my own, and what I even want to
Yes.
do or who I want to be in my life.
All these
But none
questions.
of that was conscious. It was all like happening on underneath the surface,
Yeah.
subconsciously. Before it comes to the surface and you're actually aware of it and have words for it, that's when you can start shifting. But in
Yes.
that space, ooh,
Yeah, and the
wow.
word itself, just the word
Mm,
liminality, it kind of
I love
sounds
it.
like that feeling. But I really, I think this is where these conversations are so important because when you know that you're not alone in this experience,
Yeah.
suddenly the proportions are different. I found that a
Mm,
lot, with sibling grief. My younger brother died 30 years ago this year.
mm,
And back then, there was nothing. There was no social media, no support. My mom was devastated. She had lost her husband 10 years before.
mm.
She was completely, unable to look after us. So everyone
Yeah.
around kindly was telling me, you look after your mom, you look after your brothers. And I was like, yeah, yeah, of course, yeah, yeah, I'll do that. And
Mm,
then at school, no one had experienced that. So it was such a loneliness in that grief.
yeah.
And now my older brother died in 2019, and now there are sibling grief groups and things on
Mm,
Instagram or also on
mm,
Facebook, and it is heartwarming the difference it makes to be finally able to talk to people who've lost a sibling and who get
mm,
it. I can't tell you how life-giving it has been for me. And this is also really what motivates me to talk about grief, to do the LinkedIn Live Grief and
Yeah.
You we're planning to do monthly,
Mm.
because it changes lives. It's really important that we share our experience, and to,
Mm.
to show that joy can come back in. And on support with grief, what I also would like to add is that all the things I use in my work, I've applied to myself, and the skills
Mm.
I've developed, they will help me go through life now, because there will
Yeah.
always be challenges, and it's really through that understanding of how to regulate my emotions, how to understand my emotions, how looking after my body will massively help
Mm.
the intensity of the emotions, doing meditation, sensing when I'm on overload, when I need a break, and
Yeah.
all these skills, they are skills we should all have to go through life just as it is.
Yeah.
So I find that grief support
That's
can
so
be
right.
very, very beneficial in the
Mm.
long term, not just for this event, but to manage
Mm.
life in general. Because once, grief is
Yeah.
probably one of the, among the most difficult things to manage emotionally in life. So once you
Yeah.
understand how you can help yourself, you feel a bit stronger to go through life
Mm.
in general. Mm.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I absolutely love that. And so nicely wrapped up because we're already at the end of our episode again. It always happens way too fast when I sit with you. So, just to recap here, for those of you watching this, I will actually be adding the link to the book into the magic shop as well because
Oh,
it's
yes.
such a
Oh,
beautiful book.
yes.
You and I
It is.
both absolutely love it. So
Mm.
I'm going to put a
Yeah.
link in there so you can find it. And also the link to our LinkedIn event, link to
Yes.
LinkedIn,
Yes.
for our Grief and You on Liminality on the 1st of September. So that will be 12 p.m. Sydney, Australia time. What is it in your time zone?
Well, it will be 9 a.m. for me, Bangkok time, Southeast
Perfect.
Asia. Mm.
Cool. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for opening your heart and your mind to us. I really, really love having this conversation with you. And for anybody who wants to get in touch, please reach out to us. We'll have our profiles in the comments below anyway. I'll also share your LinkedIn profile in the comments if that's okay with
Thank
you,
you.
Sylvia, so people can
Thank you.
reach out
Yeah.
to you. And if you like what you see, please hit and subscribe for weekly episodes of Unsilenced Grief. Thank you for